Hello everyone. Welcome to a Golden Shower Sunday stream. We are back after our YouTube strike. We had a 1 week timeout for being very bad little boys and girls, apparently. I am joined here, as always, with my co-host Hex, who's an angel right now. You look like an angel over with the light behind you. At least we can see you this time. And then
I'm unlocked.
What was that?
I'm unlocked now.
Yeah. Then our guest today is Brian Nichols. So thanks, Brian, for coming on. I don't think we've ever talked on a podcast before, but I know
we just Twitter chat. Yeah.
I feel like you're down with the craziness of Forest Mommy. You've never said anything back.
Yeah, I mean, hey, whatever works, right?
We're all just trying to make our way in this world, right? So I don't know, Brian, do you want to just give a little introduction of yourself for everybody?
Sure, thanks. So I guess who am I? I like to think of myself kind of as like the sales guy for the Liberty Movement. My approach is we gotta stop arguing about politics. So how do we effectively communicate our ideas? So I'm a sales guy by trade. I work in the greater cybersecurity telecommunications world and led sales teams. Helped companies go from zero to a couple $1 million overnight. And my main goal is to say, how can we do this with the Liberty Movement? And I think the main thing we can do is meet people where they're at on the issues they care about and stop arguing and start talking to people like people. So what my show is entirely focused on is meeting people where they're at on those issues they care about. And what we do is have folks on the show who talk about not just specific issues and solutions they're bringing to the table, but also go through what I have found to help build sales teams and I use in my day job for successful sales and marketing techniques that we can use right here in the Liberty Movement. Doing that and then also helping local candidates. That's been my new venture, doing a new ebook, How to Win Your Local Election. So working a lot with local candidates from city council races to mayor races in between. Been a lot of fun.
That's exciting. We actually won a mayor race here in Colorado. I don't know if you heard about that.
I think I heard about that, but I didn't get too many details about it. Fill me in.
His name's Aaron Lamb. He is Mises Caucus, but it was like, it's kind of, I don't know if you go over this, we can talk about what we go over in your book, but it's basically right now we're just focusing on these little townships because sometimes you only need like 200 votes or whatever. Yep. And so that's basically, he just talked to a handful of people and he won. So now he's like, we're going to try and make it a little like Liberty. It's like 30 minutes outside of Denver. It's a little small community that's like the town's this, then it's like unincorporated around it, Right. So yeah, he's kicking butt and having fun with it and like trying, right before he got on, the town manager had like given herself a raise because she knew she was going to get quit, just all this stuff that you find out about like small town city
People
stuff.
Suck.
It's hilarious.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I'm from a small town originally myself up in northern New York, and I moved to Philadelphia back in 2017, and going from like big fish, small pond to like small fish in ginormous ocean was really a big change for me. But to see how even though it was like the political machine, it was on scale different. That was the only real difference. The corruption, the grossness, the backroom deals, it's all there. It's just in a bigger scale. So when I moved from Philadelphia to Eastern Indiana here back at the beginning of last year, it was so refreshing to get out of that big environment, but now getting into an environment again where I feel we can make some real change. And that's the thing I really did not like about living in a blue city or just a big city in general for that matter, blue or red be darned. It's that like your vote is so much more watered down in those areas, especially when, what's Philadelphia, like 90% Democrat or some nonsense like that. So who am I not only to try and make a change, but beyond the political means, going through and trying to impact the culture? Like, you want to talk about groupthink central. I mean, I'm driving down the Ben Franklin Boulevard, in which, for those of you who are out there in Philadelphia, that's right before the art museum, right? And I'm in my car and I look to my left and I see somebody sitting in their car with a mask on by themselves. I look outside to my right. I see people walking outside wearing double masks. And I'm just like, what are we doing? Where is this collective bullshit coming from? And I didn't want to be in a situation where not only was I not on board with like this just weird mass propaganda, but also that like people around me didn't actively hate me for not towing the line. So getting into an area where people share not just similar political ideas, but also similar like vision of goals and long-term values. I think that's important for us as we're moving forward, is to like go towards those communities where we can not only make a real impact, but where people are already open to our message. Stop trying to fit the square peg to the round hole. Like we have to stop trying to make people who are not our target market try to fit them into our target market, because they're just never going to fit. They're never going to align. And we're wasting our time, energy, and resources when we're going after them.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I like how you touched on a little bit of the culture stuff too. It's funny because I'm a real estate broker, but I'm not salesy at all. I'm not like that.
Yep.
Like I know all this stuff, but I'm just not that kind of person, right? But like, if you talk to me about liberty and being freedom, obviously I can sell that like crazy. And I want to read your ebook for sure, just to like kind of get that little like, because obviously, me just being a little wild. It's funny because people like kind of get it, like, like a lot. I can't believe I got built a following. All I was doing was being a little crazy and just saying what I felt. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and that's, people want authenticity, right? So this is actually my second ebook. My first ebook was How to Sell Liberty. It's called Sell Liberty, How to Sell Liberty to Friends and Family in 4 Easy Steps. And in that ebook, we literally like outlined, how do you go to someone in your immediate circle and just start a conversation without it being that weird, like, hey, you want to talk about politics? And like, nobody wants to talk about politics. But when you can enter into the conversations that people are already having, it just feels natural, especially when you do it in that authentic way. So if you come in with an agenda, people are going to know. But if you come in just having a conversation and then that political thing comes up in a roundabout way, and this is the value of what we have in the liberty movement, is that we're helping people see things for the first time. And once you see something, you can't unsee it, right? So I almost feel like we have a responsibility to go out of our way and to have these conversations with people, but not to force feed our issues and our beliefs down their throat, but rather to help plant those seeds. And I know like a lot of folks are like, Brian, I'm tired of it. Like we can't keep planting seeds. Like we gotta get going now. And I hear you, but if our goal is long-term success, we have to build a true culture of liberty. And it starts with getting people to at least question their status quo, much like in sales, right? Our biggest competitor isn't our competition out there in the market. It's not ourself in the mirror. It's when we're talking to our prospects, it's them making no decision. It's the indecision. It's the paralysis by the analysis. It's the fear of getting hurt, right? The fear, the uncertainty, the doubt that they layer in and making a switch. The same thing is true when we're talking to potential voters or people who are at least interested in switching up the way they've been approaching politics, approaching how we as a society function. Let's have conversations with those folks who are already open to that conversation and make it more authentic, make it more real, because they're already ready to have that conversation as it is.
I totally agree. Let me get a shout out to everyone in the chat real quick. We got Alice, Big Hands, Nina, Steak, Anna, A-Dubs. My friend Nina, she's out here in Colorado. She just said she wants to start busting into city council and school board meetings and shit. Like, that's what has to happen. So that's like, I wasn't involved necessarily with the party before COVID and all that. I was definitely anti-government, but like, I started feeling like, okay, I got to try and do something. Will the political process work? I've said this many times, because everyone's like, oh, you're just trying to be statist too, and blah, blah, it's not. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But I feel like I have to put energy towards it, right? Like I have this energy to put, I'm doing other strategies too. Everyone should be doing multiple fucking things, right? But like, I'm going to put energy towards this. And it's just so interesting how like, I went to a thing the other night and a lady already wants me to come speak at one of her things. And like, just like the way you can sell, like if you're just, like you said, don't come in with an agenda. Like it's really attractive to people. Although I would say on my Instagram over the last 2 years, I definitely pushed a lot of people away, but planted the seeds in other people. And now I have people who are like, I watch your lives, like people who were friends from high school watching my live streams now and like, like saying they want to help and do this and that. And I'm like inviting them to all the liberty kind of parties and stuff. And it is like a culture thing for sure. Like,
yeah, one of the coolest things I get is when I have friends of mine who they'll text me and they'll say, Bri, check this. And they'll send a screenshot. And it's like one of their friends from their circle, completely like out of my world, sharing something from my show page. And that right there is the cool thing I get to experience. And I'm sure we get to experience, right? But something you also mentioned of the people that you push away, I don't think it's necessarily you're pushing people away. I think what you're doing is you're helping find who your actual target market is and focusing on that. And that's a good thing. We should not, and we frankly cannot be a one-size-fits-all approach for everybody. It's just not who we are. And frankly, once we go down that road, what are we? We're just like mush. We stand for nothing. If as soon as you stand for everything, you quite literally stand for nothing. It's from the Incredibles syndrome. The bad guy is like, when everybody's super, no one is. Same thing is true for us. We try to be super on every single issue for every single person. And the reality is that we just can't. So what I recommend and what I've found success with when I'm coaching candidates is let's go towards the people who are already in our, not necessarily in our target market right now, but they're in what we call a trigger event. They're open to change. They're considering things for the first time in a different way. And I'm going to say right now, who are those folks for us? I'm going to say it's a lot of folks who have been disaffected by the political process, especially over the past 5-10 years. Folks who are looking around and being like, we just live through hell from the past 3 years. How did we get here? That's the person I want to talk to, because they're already asking phenomenal questions versus the person who's like, nah, we know we need to vote blue no matter who, but maybe we agree on some social stuff. But like, okay, great. They're going down a different rabbit hole. We can maybe have a conversation and build coalitions and focus on that issue, but they're not the person I'm spending my time, energy, and effort towards to try to get on my team. I will work with you, but I'm not trying to get you to be on my team, nor am I going to be on your team. Let's like approach it in those kind of two different ways, and we're going to have a lot more success.
Yeah, it's like that lady who came up to me. You could tell she's definitely been like GOP all her life. Just
Right.
That kind of looking lady. And she, like, the first thing she says to me, she's like, we're done with sides. We're done with left and right. And I was like, hell yeah, like, you know, she's just like, that's like the group we really need to bring to like the liberty movement, especially is I've met so many ladies who are like older ladies, like boomers, who you'd always think they're GOP, and they some of them were helping out here at the GOP, and they saw the corruption out here and stuff like that. So it's like, oh, we have like, there's such a good energy right now, and there's so many people who are so disillusioned because people out here in Colorado are like, they don't understand how our governor won and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it could be absolutely corrupt or whatever, but like everyone's like, how did he win? No one likes him. Things like this, you know? And so it's like, if we can just start bringing those people over, and all I have to do, like, it helps being just like a blonde, like basic bitch looking girl, because they love that shit, right? So it's like I'm sneaking in that way, and then they don't. I was like, if they knew about my sparkler video, whatever. But it's kind of fun. Like, I'm like, half the time I think no one even cares. Even in the liberty community on Twitter, all the super people who are like really like just super like telling everyone what to do, like they still follow me. So like, you know, people kind of get, some people are just different and crazy, and that's how you get across to people.
Yeah. Well, and frankly, and this is not trying to, you know, be combative towards LP of yesteryear, because frankly, I'm moving forward, but I think it is important for us to acknowledge where we have been so we don't accidentally go backwards. And what we had was, in the past, it was specifically a little fish in little pond syndrome. I mentioned that earlier. You know, I had to experience that when I physically moved. When you're talking about the Libertarian Party, though, what happened was you have all these little fish in this little pond, this political pond, and they would have these political positions that they would vote on, you know, internally, and it would make them feel special. So all of a sudden, you had like a little bit bigger fish in that little pond still. And what threatened that system was when you had a couple big fish just jump into the pond and then start saying like, hey, we can dig a trench over to that river over there and really expand the size of our pond and actually join up with a lot more fish. And all of a sudden, all those little fish were like, oh, fuck. Like, now we are going to get like completely overshadowed by these other fish as well. No. And they started to get defensive, right? They started to fight. And that's what we saw happen was, instead of bringing people in, we started having like these purity tests, and it turned into much more of like this weird kind of social club mentality. And what I'm hoping we are going to be going forward towards is truly a political party, right? And there's two different parts to a political party. The first part, obviously, is winning the elections. But the second part is being able to get a voter base activated. And that doesn't happen overnight, right? That's not just like you snap your fingers and your voters go out and vote. It's funny. I was actually just mentoring a candidate today, and he was saying, he's like, dude, 50% of our voters last election didn't show up. And I'm like, yeah, like, how do we deal with that, right? And we started talking through different issues in that world. How do we activate voters? Same thing is true in our world. How do we get people mobilized and keep them engaged, right? What issues can we talk about that people will carry through today, through the actual time to vote? And in between that, how do we keep them engaged with us? And that's the challenge I think a lot of candidates have to really start to grapple with, is that if you're going to be going through the old ways of doing things, right? Like the relying on the corporate media to give you some attention. And this is for a lot of local candidates, because that's kind of the mentality. Like, oh, we have to go through the local newspaper. We have to go through the local TV station. No, you don't. Your social media, your YouTube, you go through the tools at your disposal, and you can have so much more of an impact. What we're doing right now is reaching more folks than a lot of people, like local news stations do. So just to think of the impact that we can have. I mean, Dave Smith's talking to hundreds of thousands of people a month on his show, on his podcast. That's filling up like stadiums. Think about the impact of a stadium's worth of people and having one person standing there and everybody listening and like actually paying attention to what's being said. And then to be able to take that group of people and then get them to go out and mobilize and make change. That's where we're going to have a lot of success from the cultural side, is getting the folks that are listening, that are paying attention, to actually get involved, get engaged. And that's where we come in, right? That's where what we're doing, and trying to get folks tied to the issues and show them the solutions and the pathways, and then get those folks in positions where they can start feeling like they're making a difference. That's when we start to, like, it's like the hands-on approach. I mean, I'm sure you do this, right, Forrest? When you're going and showing houses, like bring the people into the home, like, oh man, isn't this a nice table? Like, you love the island, right? It's made of like, you know, marble or whatever. Like, get them to feel it and own the house. Same thing is true with us. When we get them involved and get them passionate about the stuff that we're accomplishing, they're going to stick around. They're going to become our biggest cheerleaders. Just like when you're trying to make the sale, a person's going to be like, honey, buy the house. I love that island. Come on. Same thing is true for us.
That's true. And then waking people up to local elections again, because everyone's been sleeping on it. And then everyone's like, holy shit, what happened? I mean, it happened here in Colorado, like just got taken over. I want to go back real quick when you were talking about the old party. This shit's still happening here, even in Colorado. So like, you know, everyone's who comes now, oh, they're an evil Republican. Like, why are we even talking about this? We have actual fucking enemies right now. And we have people out here going to our public radio station to talk about infighting stuff in the Libertarian Party. And I'm like, you had this, you went to talk to the public radio and you talk about that when we have all this shit going on. And as a salesperson, if someone says something like this to you, well, I make six figures. What do you hate anyone who says
I hate you. Yeah. I'm not going to listen to you. Yeah.
And those are the people who are saying they should take them. You know, it's always the messaging fight, right? The people who want the messaging. Well, I make six figures doing messaging, so I should make. And I'm like, you failed. You literally just failed at messaging. Like, people are so dumb out here. We're getting there though.
So this book, Can't Sell, Won't Sell. Steve Harrison wrote this book. I had him on my show recently, and the book is a gold mine because it talks about the politicization and polarization of the marketing industry. And he takes the approach of, we can't keep going into the culture war approach of marketing because it's not speaking to our customers. And what you just said about, you know, oh, well, I make $100,000 a year doing messaging for a marketing agency. It's like, well, yeah, you're being propped up by a left-leaning organization they're talking to their shareholders, or no, I'm sorry, their stakeholders. Is it stakeholders? Yeah, stakeholders instead of their shareholders. They care about the people that they're speaking to, and that mentality carries through a lot of folks here in our movement because unfortunately, I was like, do I say this? Yes, I do. Unfortunately, a lot of folks in the liberty movement leadership of yesteryear were much more in favor and you know, more buddy with the political left. And that's just the reality. So you saw a lot of that translate in the way that we approach things. And if we had folks in communications roles who are like, oh, I make six figures because I know X, Y, and Z, and I'm being paid by this, you know, fancy company, I'm going to call bullshit. Because you don't have to do anything that actually makes your customers want to buy your product. You're out there doing some, you know, bullshit story that's like, you know, there was two, you know, lesbian moms that had, you know, a transvestite child, and like that's the story they're going to tell in their marketing story versus trying to show how their product or their service is going to help solve their customers' problems. Like, that's what marketing used to be, and that's what works for customers. Like, customers want to know how your product can help them. Like, what's your service? What's it going to do for me? Everybody's tuned into that same radio station, WIIFM. What is in it for me? And if we don't acknowledge that, then people are just going to ignore us. We're going to be white noise. And the same thing it conveys with our messaging. So I know I went in a rant there, but I digress.
No, I love it. I love the rants because it is like you're saying, the left stuff with the party. Like, everyone got so terrified being called a Republican. Like, people are literally more scared about being. I'm like, who gives a shit? Are you that easily peer pressured that you care about what people say?
Of course they are. Yeah.
Like, who gives a shit? I've been called. The only thing I will take issue with is if you call me ugly, then I'll punch you in your face. But like, you can call me, like, I've been called alt-right, all this shit, and I'm like, I'm not. Like, who cares if people call us that if it's not true? You're
Right.
more worried about the left calling you a Republican. Same thing out here. Oh, these are just new Republicans. Well, and I'm like, no, we're like, it's just so stupid how they're so stuck. It's sad to me because we're supposed to be about individuality, and these people are like proving that they can't be individuals. Like, they just can't. They have no ability to.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right.
There's my rant. And it's like, and talk about like, you know, we can't have like a big market. Like, what's more niche than the fucking individual, right? You know, like it's like that's what's got to be focused on.
Yep. Well, and that's frankly why local, like to your point, right? Like the local approach to making change is so much more effective, even though it's not as sexy, right? And this is the same thing for fitness as it is to winning elections. Like, I used to weigh 385 pounds. Like, I was fat as fuck and I was miserable.
Aren't you pretty tall too?
Yeah, I'm 6'5", but like I was like morbidly obese though. I mean, I like rolls on rolls. I had man boobs. My nickname in high school was Brian Nichols. Like, it was awful. And I decided when I was a junior, mainly because I was told by my doctor that, like, listen, you're on your way to your deathbed if you don't change. Like, you have to change the way you do things. And I was like, all right, well, I guess like I got to do something. And of course, like the first thing, like, how do I lose 180 pounds in 2 days? And like you look up every possible shortcut and trick in the book. And of course, like, everything comes down to the reality of like, stop putting as much food in your mouth, fatty, and get out and move more. Like, and I had to do that, right? So I would literally go out and I would like what my parents had an old abandoned farm and stuff that they had years ago. And we still had the old barns that were empty. So here I am, I'd go out middle of February. I'm like embarrassed to go to the gym. So I'd go to these barns, walk up and down the middle of the barn, back and forth, up and down the barn to just try to get some activity. And I would like have to, like, you know, I go to a friend's birthday parties, like, Brian, you want some cake? And I'd be like, sure. And I took the cake and I'd be like, come here, dog. And I give the dog some cake, but like, didn't want people to know I was dieting and stuff. And then fast forward 2 years and I had dropped 180 pounds. And I realized, like, oh my God, it wasn't an overnight thing, but here I am 2 years later, looking back to where I was and to see how much changed when I was able to make those little changes in my life. The same thing is true. I know this is a weird connection, but when we look at local politics, right, we see things in this weird context of like the federal government, the state politics, like all that stuff is more important. But when the reality is the little things that happen in our day-to-day that are most impacted by local government that we can actually impact, that's where the real change is made. So when we go to our city council meetings and we pay attention to where's the money being spent, where's money being wasted, right? Or you go to your school boards and you hear, like, what are your kids actually being taught in school? And you know, what's the conversations that they're being told to have in school? Not even like allowed to have, but they're being told and forced to have these conversations with teachers. So being involved there and then being able to vote for folks who are going to make a real substantive change, your vote there has so much more of an impact. But guess what? It requires us to take the step and actually get interested in the thing that's not sexy, the thing that's going to take some extra work, right? Just like when I had to lose the weight, I couldn't do it overnight. Couldn't do the sexy pill that I saw online that would help me lose all my belly fat in 6 months. No, it happens over 2 years. And the same thing's gonna be true for us when we get involved in our local politics. Once we start making some changes, right? We elect one person. Suddenly that one libertarian starts to really show folks in city council that, hey, I'm not some weird, crazy lunatic anarchist person. Maybe they are, but maybe they're out there making a real change and a difference. And people in the community see that and they really like it. All of a sudden, it's going to inspire us to have more folks to run because people are going to be looking for that. They're going to be demanding that. They're going to be craving it. So we start doing the changes now. We might not see it overnight, but we will see it a year, 2 years, 4 years down the road. And we already are seeing some of the change right now that we started when we were, in 2020 and 2018 and 2016. Those seeds that were planted are now starting to really grow. But truly, when we see what we're doing now, it's going to be like 2024 that we see things really blow up. So I think it's on us now to really start, putting the pedal to the metal.
Yes. And like you said, like it's even the anarchists and stuff. I think everyone got so focused on the federal stuff and it sucks to have to get involved. It does suck to have to get involved and do all this work. I was just arguing with someone on Twitter this morning who won a House district out here in Colorado, because she started talking about, we need to limit CEO pay, CEO bad, corporation bad, but I'm a government employee and I'm amazing and good. And so we're just trying to fucking explain that shit to her. And it's like, how did this person fucking get it? How did this person win?
Right.
And then she's like, oh, well, it's only for if we limit government pay, then the working man can't get it. And I'm like, okay, first of all, I helped on the working man campaigns around here. And then I looked up her, we call it Tracer out here, her campaign.
Yep.
She got almost $75,000. I'm like, no working man libertarian got even above $5,000. I'm pretty sure. You know what I mean? And she's out here talking that she's for the working class and all that. And it's just like, this is the stuff that has, and she's paid by a PAC. She's saying she's not. I'm like, no, the super PACs got all the leftists hired out here. Like, there's these huge super PACs that are funding them. They didn't even have to campaign. They just put YouTube videos out and TV, you know what I mean? Like, it was just, they just are so confused. And so it's all this local stuff that people have forgotten, because it's like, it's easy to not fucking think about it because you're like, well, we're not going to win the federal thing. So why even worry about it? But it's like, we need to start worrying about it. And people are waking up and people do want to get more involved. And there's a lot of, I know the white suburban woman is kind of a bad person, but they are also waking up too. Like, there are a lot who do PTO and have the time to do stuff. So it's just that it's hard to get people waking up because everyone just throws, the baby away with the bathwater or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't know, if it's ever going to be easy, right? I think everybody wants it to be easy, but it's never going to be easy. So I just think, it's slow. It's like the tortoise and the hare, right? It's the slow, methodical approach towards the finish line. We will get there, and it will take time. But also, during that time, just make sure that you're going out and doing good. Just show people the path forward. Be the change you want to see in your community. And again, it starts with you, right? Make the changes you want to see in your personal life. We can't go out and I'm sorry, but there's so many folks in the liberty movement who try to promote them, themselves in the movement, and they themselves are hot messes. And it's guys, we gotta do some stuff in our own personal lives before we think we can go out and tell other people what to do to live their lives better. And people see that, right? You're not going to listen to fitness advice from, a guy who's 450 pounds and eating Cheetos. That's just, no, I'm sorry. I'm not going to pay attention to you because I don't believe you. I don't think you know what you're talking about. And maybe you're saying the right things, but still the credibility factor, I just don't trust you. And the same thing is true for us. We're talking about, personal responsibility and we have to go out there and live that life. You look at people who are saying that, and it's a lot of neck ears living in mom's basements. It's come on, guys.
Yeah. And people know, if people can tell if you're just talking the talk and now there are so many people out there who are telling other people how to live, and they have the messiest lives ever.
Yep.
Why? And I understand that's a psychological thing too that humans do, where they can't control themselves, so they're trying to control other people and stuff. So it's obvious what you're doing. So yeah, the more people who could just be freedom and living it and not faking it. I don't know. We gotta get Hex and Hex. You're not in he's close to Pennsylvania, but
I'm in Ohio. But you're in Indiana now, so you're still a neighbor.
Oh
yeah, right next door.
Pennsylvania won a bunch of local stuff the last time, didn't it? Or kind of.
I think so. I think they did.
It's all you do, because even half these things, some of these. So once he won the mayor, I started looking at some of these other little towns up and down the Front Range of Colorado, and there's even little election commission positions to get it. Just stuff that you don't have to get elected to. So but you have to live in these little tiny, I have one house that's right outside of this township. I'm we gotta find people to get in them, but there's only one house for sale ever, and it's kind of hard, but I think we can do it. Hey, May. I'm trying, just doing more events and stuff, and more people. It's amazing the power of Twitter and social media, because there are people contacting, I'll say I'm doing an event, and there's people I don't know who they are, and they're I'm coming because I'm sick of this shit, and it's not necessarily libertarian, but it's just And it's amazing how people will show up and they'll start talking. They're like, holy crap, I can just start talking about this stuff with these people. I'm not like that. This is how browbeaten people have been. They're like, they'll show up to an event and just start talking about whatever. And they're like, I feel so free.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's why it's so important to get involved in your community too, right? Like, it's one thing to be involved online. We all are online, and I get it. And like, there is a role for that, but it cannot be understated, overstated, regardless of how getting involved in your community and just getting to meet people locally is so invaluable when it comes to actually going forward and making like real substantive relationships that will help foster change, because we can't do this on an island. We need people to believe in us and to buy what we are selling in order to move this forward. So we do that by actually building relationships, networking with people. So if there are things that you're passionate about, or organizations or cause groups that are out there that you can get involved with, do it. Even if they don't necessarily align with your values, be the change. Go there, start talking about things differently, get people to start asking questions, and then start building relationships with folks, because it's going to require us to have lots of people in our communities to be on board with this. And it's going to be a different way of thinking, right? A different way of doing things. And the status quo is the easiest thing always to revert back to. So we have a lot of work, frankly, that it's ahead of us, and it's never going to be over. That's the other thing I want to make sure people never forget, is that when you feel like, oh, we've won some elections, yep, and you're going to have to keep holding those elections now and keeping those seats. And also, how do you grow the groups of folks that you're electing? So the battle is never over. As a matter of fact, it will keep going. It's going to get harder too, because as we start winning, we're going to become targets to the GOP and the Democratic Party even more than we are now. So just be prepared for that. So there's a lot that's going to be going into this. But if we stay together as a team, which I know, it's libertarians, good God, good luck. So we'll see.
So that's very important about what we talk getting involved. So like when I became a broker, I was like, I'm not going to cold call people. And like, so it's like, what are the other things you can do? Right. And it's like volunteering. And so I'm kind of like the cliche wife with the broker's license who volunteers a lot, which I love. Like that was the life I wanted. And it's great now. And I'm giving back. I'm so much better for the world when I don't have to work fucking 60 hours a week. I'm just going to say it. Like I'm a much better asset. So I was volunteering a lot, and everyone's heard this story too, but like right at COVID, it was by when the vaccines had rolled out, this organization that I had volunteered with for like 6 years at that point. I was on the board of directors now. I donate money, time, everything, right? Well, they discriminated against me, and I wasn't allowed to the first, oh, nice, Paul, thank you. I wasn't allowed to the first in-person meeting because I wasn't vaccinated. And I'm the youngest one. It's all old people, and that's another thing. That's the point I got to come back to. Remind me to come back to that point. But now it's funny because now I'm getting more involved in that community in the political way, and like business owners who had helped that organization, and now they're like helping me do events and stuff. And I had some people I met through that know what happened. And they're like, they like to come to the Liberty stuff. And that's okay. That's why I wanted to go back about old stuff. I know volunteering is hard. No one's got time. No one's got money, but like people need to get the fuck involved, because everybody's in a lot of organizations are old. Not the Libertarian Party of Colorado, which is hilarious. Cause I'm like, the other organizations, we had to try so hard to get anyone young involved to do like next gen stuff. But like the LP Colorado, everyone's like, it's already next gen, but everything else. So the more people who can get involved in any of these kind of organizations, and like you said, you just start talking about things differently. Like my thing was the land trust, which is it's conservation easements, which is statist and it's government, right? But private landowners choose to put it on. And if they sell the land, someone can choose to buy it or not, whatever. So it is what it is. But I remember I started talking about it in a more anarchist kind of way. And like, they didn't get it, right? Because they're all like, no. Because I'm like, in the end of the day, a conservation easement, technically a cop with a gun can show up and kill someone if it like gets to that point, if someone's like doing something wrong, right? So it's like I started saying that kind of stuff, but then they were too far gone. And is there about the ESG? They were like, it's in like freaking Whiteville, Colorado, out in the country. Actually, it's getting more diverse out there and stuff, but they're like, we need to make sure our board is diverse and blah, blah. And I'm like, do you understand forcing diversity is like racism? The worst thing. Yeah. Come on. Like, they're just so bought into that already. So I was like, it was kind of a blessing to get off of it. And now it's all coming around. And I got to tell this one business owner, I was like, yeah, man, they discriminated against me. And he was like, I knew they were up to crap. Like, it was just fun to like get involved. So anyone get involved if you can. That's the only way. I remember getting involved with that. I started seeing, and I could tell they are kind of grooming me a little bit too, to like get me on the board and all that. And it's like, you really start getting involved. You start meeting people, and like, you don't have to be the whole like, I rub elbows with everybody and I know this guy. Like, it's actually just nice to know those people and know who they are and be able to say things to them, and that's very important in my, just the anything local.
And go help people too. Like, just don't be there when you're asking for things, right? Like, go out and help, like, and don't expect anything in return. Just bring value to your community or to the organization, and it will come back in so many unexpected positive ways. Just do good.
Yeah, simple as. You gonna sign up, Hex? You gonna be in the Libertarian Party now? I love it. We always talk with that's like every topic, every time we come on, it's libertarian stuff. But everybody's on. It's everyone's little L libertarian anyways. So, in my opinion. Did you want to talk more about your book at all? It's coming out, or
sure, it is out. It's How to Win Your Local Election. So I wrote this book basically as I was doing a lot more of just meeting with liberty organizations across the board. Whether they're nonprofits, whether they're LP organizations across the country. And the thing I was just hearing consistently was like, hey, we know we can win on the ideas. It's just our local candidates are having trouble actually going out and reaching people directly. How do we how can we help them? And one thing I started to think about was like, well, I've worked on campaigns in the past. I've seen what works. I've worked in the sales and in marketing industry. So like, I should be able to build something, of sorts to help. And I started to walk through like, one thing I wanted to do was build the ebook, but also I wanted to build some structure afterwards. So this is kind of two parts. First is the ebook, 17 pages or so, and literally from everything from building your campaign, why are you running for office, to fundraising, voter outreach, building your message, all that in between, all the way up until actually winning the election. So that's the ebook. And then we have, to help bring all that into action, we have our candidate school. So over on my Patreon, $9.95 a month, I'm working one-on-one with city council, mayor races, school board, you name the local election, we have folks on there. And what we're doing is we're going through their campaigns, talking about their messaging, talking about what's working, what's not working. We're having candidates on the show who, or not the show, but on the Patreon, who they've won their elections, talk about what did they do that was successful. We're having folks who've lost elections, learning from those campaigns. What did they do wrong and where could they have done things better? So being able to have a true structured environment there and couple that with the ebook, we're going to help some folks win some elections. And I think that right there, the biggest barrier to entry for local candidates when you're trying to get help is the cost. Usually consultants are like tens of thousands of dollars for their services. And I'm like, we just can't do that. It's not realistic for local candidates. So I want to make sure we start off with a more cost-effective option for folks out there, especially in the liberty movement, to just learn some of the basics. So that's more or less what we have here. And you can find the ebook. It's a special link, briannichols.com/win local. But if you guys want, I can give you guys a special link as well. You can do a /golden showers, and it'll bring you right to the ebook as well.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
So that's exciting. Now I'm excited to look through it, because that's the fire bit that's been lit under my butt. I'm definitely really good at recruiting right now. So like, that's like my thing. I'm like, I will be the face and help people get in. Like, it was so fun the other day to like, I'm not a good public speaker. I can do this, but I literally would rather stand naked in front of people than speak to them. Like, I hate speaking. But I'm like, I know I need to start doing it more. And then we had this celebration thing out here. So I had to go and kind of sell the LP a little bit. And it worked. I got like one lady to get in, invite us to stuff. So it just is. It's trial and error. It's fun. I don't know. Just trying to inspire people and motivate people.
Yeah. Well, it starts with us just doing what we're doing, right? Like, I know one of the things I hear a lot, and I talk to a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs and stuff, and the thing I consistently hear is the fear of coming out politically, if that makes sense. Like, they're afraid that that's going to alienate business. And to the contrary, I think, and I've seen this, where people are more embracing their authentic self and they speak their values, they end up actually getting more people on board because there's more people out there, I think, who aren't speaking that truth or their beliefs for the fear of the ostracization, right? So just seeing someone be willing to speak what they believe and put their reputation and business behind it, it builds that relationship just instantly because they're like, oh, this person actually says what I believe and they're willing to say it. And I think that leads to a lot more success for the businesses. So that's my 2 cents. I've seen that at least, but
no, it's true. And that's quality. It's like the quality of your customers and everything goes up and the people they bring, like this brewery, like they right away during the COVID stuff, they started to do this bureaucracy out here. Well, if you have us come, if you pay for us to come inspect your business, we'll let you have more people in there. If you follow, it was just like a total,
okay.
it was so bullshit. And you had to collect names and, it was this whole thing. And there was a couple companies that stood up against it. And guess what? I will always give them my business. I will always be there. Like, it really does say, like, even if people are, it's just the dumbest thing that people can't see what the government does to businesses. And then like how I went to a business right before our second shutdown out here, a restaurant. And this lady was like, well, we don't know what the governor's going to tell us to do next. Like, and she wasn't like, the way she said it was like, oh, all hail the governor. You know what I mean? And it was just like, it should be, I don't understand how people weren't like, fuck, and again, like, not to go back to the old LP, but like, we had such an opportunity during all this with religious people and businesses. We could have just fucking nailed it. Like, I'm not even religious, and seeing my parents, like, well, their church was pretty okay, but some of like people lost their community through their church community. These are like, that's like their only people they see. Like, it was so vile, and the GOP didn't say shit about it. And then of course the LP National didn't like do anything about it either. And it was just like, we had such a big opportunity right there. But
that pissed you off, Hex, too?
I'm sorry, what?
You said that made you mad too, that they dropped the ball?
Yeah, the LP 2020 election, they dropped the ball, and the COVID shit should have been like the main thing they attacked, but they didn't.
I was so mad. Like that was the number one thing for me in 2020 of why I said there had to be a change, because we couldn't keep doing this literally and figuratively. Like, the LP had to stop. What are we doing?
It was like an easy free throw.
Exactly.
Come on.
Like, hey, here's a world-changing incident that literally gives you a chance to stand up quite literally on all of your values at once on a global stage. And they just silence.
And they're like, maybe you should wear a mask and distance. Like, that was literally the post they were making.
Yeah. Like, you should get vaccinated, and maybe we should have vaccine passports to help promote human liberty. I'm like, what, Cato? What? No.
Another thing that got on my nerves was in 2021, an article came out saying the Biden administration was looking into vax passports. And then A. Smith, he was like the main one, like saying, hey, LP, fight this.
Yep.
Saying that. And then like the statement they came out with, it was like, we had a vote and we voted to say some dumb shit. And it was like, okay, yeah, things have got to change in the LP, because that's just.
Because everybody loves reading some fucking mealy mouth like press release that was like contrived with 17 people sitting around a table. Like, how do we make this so it doesn't make people offended? Like, no, be definitive, be bold, say what you fucking believe. And like, people will say, yes, like, I agree. Not like, I need a lawyer to fucking decipher what this message is supposed to mean. No, your average person, not only do they not have the time and the emotional energy to like have to spend to decipher this bullshit, they shouldn't have to, right? Like, if we make them do that, fuck us. Like, we are doing a terrible job at our messaging efforts if we're making people like have to bend over backwards to try to understand what we're saying.
Yep.
Yeah. And that was, again, once it got politicized, they were afraid to be lumped in with the right to be against the stuff. And I was
terrified.
Like, that's not like, how can you say you're a libertarian? Like, or any of that would like that literally, Oh, it may just say about the ostracization. That's why I need to like, I'm trying to figure out how we can, this is like anti-sales a little bit, but like to weaponize ostracization, because that's why all these stupid moms and shit are doing all this weird shit. It's because they're afraid to be ostracized, right? So it's like, I want to figure out how to ostracize and be like, oh, you like the government? You know, like we got to figure out for this too, because it's such a powerful tool. Look what happened in 2020 just because of Facebook. People literally told people on Facebook, go make fun of people for watching YouTube videos and finding information and researching. Go make fun of people for researching. Like, what the hell happened?
So I was on Timcast back in March of last year. And one of the things that we talked about was the importance of setting narratives instead of reframing narratives. And the argument it's not even an argument. It's really just the truth is that when you're explaining, you're losing, right? So we have for too often as libertarians tried to enter into the political conversation by explaining what we mean. Like, well, here's the libertarian perspective on this. And we come in, all logical and factual, but that doesn't matter to your average person, right? Like if we're having to explain or we're being like, we're on the defensive, then we're instantly in a losing position. You have to be bold in your beliefs, but also like start setting the narratives. Your question that you raised is like, how do you ostracize without ostracizing, right? And I think you started touching on it, is that you reframe how you approach the conversation. If you approach people who are doing silly things as doing silly things and they're silly people, then it's like you're not taking them seriously, and you're like, well, I'm not going to take them seriously. Why should you? Like, they're not being serious people. And it almost is like the emperor has no clothes, right? Like once one person starts to notice and laugh, then everybody else is like, oh yeah, and everybody's supposed to join in. And that's the same thing here, is that we just have to like start reframing the way we approach some of these conversations. So instead of being like, well, a vaccine passport might be permissible in this certain circumstance, be like, no, vaccine passports are inhuman and like completely out of the conversation right now. And if you even promote that, I'm going to assume that you're like, one step to the left of Hitler, right? Like start there, right? Make them have to start being like, whoa, I'm not Hitler. Right? I'm not the bad guy. Make them start playing defense. And that's when it's like you're getting them to now have to, like, other people be like, yeah, what about that? And they're like, no, it's not me. And to like what was effective against the libertarians for the most of the time is that now all of a sudden people are like, oh, explaining, and they're actuallying everything instead of actually leading by, conviction, leading by what they actually believe.
Yep, that's true.
Don't pull punches. Moral of the story.
Exactly. Yeah. As soon as you start to pull punches, people sense the blood in the water and they strike.
I was going to say something about that, but I just forgot.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I was right about what you were saying, and then it just totally left my mind. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just whatever. I'm just trying to get more people in because we need so many volunteers and we need so much help, and that's like. We need people to run. We need all this. Oh yeah, what was about that? I hate that. I'm not even
I consider it, but I got bills to pay. So
no. I don't know. I don't know.
But that's why everyone should hit those super chats.
Oh yeah, everyone hit the super chats. So don't feel. I'm a terrible salesperson. Like don't feel pressure. Don't feel pressure. Well, that's what's funny about it, because real estate's funny like that, right? Like you're not selling the house, you're selling you. You want people to use you to do the sale, right? Yep. Like, and it's just, I've always been like, fucking take me or leave me. I mean, that's just the deal, but you kind of have to be a little more, luckily it's all good and stuff, but it just always makes me laugh because I'm like, people are so pushy, and people respond to that. People respond to being pushy. So
mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and so many people are just afraid of making a decision, right? They almost need to like be told what to do. And that sounds weird to say, but like there are so many people out there who just, they don't know what to do. They are looking for guidance. And sometimes we just need to be the one to give them a little push.
Yep. That's all. And it's really after the last couple of years, regardless, like even if people were bought into it at one point, like there are so many people who are just like, okay, something's not right about this. Like, and it's just, got to get in on that and kind of open it up.
Yeah, well, and it starts with us just having the conversation, right? Like if we're not willing to engage and we kind of just stick into our own bubble, and we expect them to join us just by the nature that like where our ideas are perfect, we're going to good idea them to death. Like that doesn't work. We have to meet them where they're at on the issues they care about, not what we care about, what they care about.
Yeah. So you're in Indiana, you said now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you ever talk to Justin Campbell?
Negative. No. I know I'm familiar with Justin. I haven't spoken to him since being here though.
Yeah. Because I know he kind of got involved and he's gotten burned out with libertarian and GOP and everything. So it's like, but he would be a great like local person to run, you know, he's like a great person for that kind of stuff. So
yeah, there's so many great people that should run, frankly, like, and that's the thing too. If you are in your community and you are not even a noted person, but like you're willing to put in the work, then run. Like who else? It's going to be you or what, GOP status guy, Democrat status guy. Like if you want to see things change in your community and nobody else is taking a step, sometimes you got to be the first one to step forward.
What the heck?
You got to take the initiative yourself sometimes.
Absolutely.
You really do. That's the thing. Like I've seen people like this really hot girl on Twitter lately. She's been like, notice me, LP, like crown me queen. I'm like, bitch, you got to go sign up and volunteer like everybody else. Like, here's the links, you know, stop complaining that you have to take the initiative. You have to fucking do something. It took me a while to do something just because I was like going crazy. And then I started meeting all the people out here and I'm like, holy shit, everyone's so cool out here. And then you fucking sign up and you start work. You have to do work. You have to like, it's volunteer work. I feel bad for the people on the actual board out here. Like it is a full-time job on top of like what they're doing. You know what I mean? And they're working their asses off and they're passionate. I just saw one MA say about, you definitely need passion. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing too, we're kind of like a startup, right? We're all little entrepreneurs in the liberty movement because like we're competing against like ginormous corporations, if you will, the GOP and Democratic Party, for making the comparison to the business world. And in that vein, like to your point, you got to do the 60, 70, 80 hour weeks sometimes because shit's got to get done. And who else is going to do it? Like it requires people with the drive, but also the resources, right? You have to bridge those two worlds together, but also the know-how. And I mean, I'm trying to do it like for my show. Like I'm trying to do the basics of just teaching people how to sell this stuff. And I mean, am I making an ocean of money doing that for the show? Absolutely not. I've been doing this now for 5 years and you know, it pays for itself, but like, I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing this because this is how we make a difference. And there are so many other people out there in the movement who like blood, sweat, tears. This is why we do this, because otherwise, who else is? Like, who else is going to take the initiative to make things different? And right now, we're on a pathway to hell. Like, no, we got to make a change. Otherwise, I don't know, is there going to be a future for our kids, our grandkids, our great-grandkids? And like, that's not that far away. My great-grandma passed away in 2003, somewhere in there. And that was just like a short little bit ago. But I remember her and she remembered like, she and I had a good relationship. I was like 10, 11 when she passed away. So like, think about that. Like you could have a kid that you've known 10, 11 years when you're a great grandparent one day, and just think about what country are we going to leave behind? What world are we leaving behind? And do you want to be, this is morbid, right? But do you want to be on that deathbed being like, did I do everything I could have done to help put the future for them in a better spot?
That's true.
Right.
And they are so organized. Like if you like you say, who else is going to do it? Because you go to the legislature, the anti-gun people, all these people, they are so organized. They are so organized. Absolutely. And they have people showing up, speaking. You know, we're doing better now. We're gonna have to make sure when our fucking anti-gun bills are getting voted, you know, we're showing up too. But it's like you show up and they like, it's like they're so organized. Like it's just crazy. And the LP, we just really need to like do that as well, like use their own fucking shit against them.
Amen. Can't agree more.
All right, well, that's about an hour. If there's anything else anyone wants to add.
No. If you like my shirt I got here, it's my Magic Money Tree shirt. You can grab that over at my shop. I got lots of shirts over there. We got Magic Money Tree, what happened in 1971. We have our now that's what I call tyranny. It's a Klaus Schwab, but it's in the spirit of like the now that's what I call music. Background. We have what else? We have our Michael Scott 2024. That's a good one. And then we have like just other random stuff too. We have yard signs. We have bumper stickers. backpacks, all that and stuff. So, and if you use code TBNS at checkout, you get 10% off.
There you go, TBNS. All right. Well, Hex, all our links are in the description. Everyone knows our stuff. Yeah, everyone go subscribe on Rumble so I can do live on Rumble because I don't want to pay for it right now. So
yeah, we're like 2 strikes in. Come on, y'all.
Yeah, so YouTube, I'm on my second strike, so it won't be long.
Go sub for us, mommy, on YouTube and on. Well, no, not on YouTube, on Rumble. You can sub me though, because I'm not at strikes yet. So go get me on YouTube and on Rumble.
They just love me, man. They just love me.
I know you have all the best friends there in tech.
I know. And I don't even I'm so innocent and sweet. It's just, I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching. This was a great show. Thanks, Brian. And I think that's good. Take us out, Dollar Store Jamie.